This is a training video to talk about PDF accessibility and the features that we need to use in Adobe Acrobat to make a PDF accessible. To begin, I really want us to think about whether something needs to be a PDF or not. I want to go through quickly and show you what an inaccessible PDF is like when we try to read it. So I'm going to go into Acrobat. I have a PDF here that I created that was actually scanned from it wasn't scanned, it was an electronic version of this document that was provided by Solution Tree. And when I go into, and I'm on my Mac, so I'm going to go into VoiceOver, and I do that by hitting Command 5.
VoiceOver on Acrobat. Smart Goal Setting.pdf window. Group has keyboard focus.
So the VoiceOver is going to recognize where I'm at, and because this is not an accessible document, I'm going to have a lot of trouble trying to get through this. So I'm going to just start trying to tab through.
Quick Tools, Toolbar Item Palette.
The biggest problem is I get stuck right here.
Toolbar Item Palette.
And the reason is it doesn't recognize anything on this page as being readable. I can come in here and tab on it. If I use my tab, it'll tab through, but when it says group, I have no idea what that means if I can't visually see the screen. So it's tabbing through everything but giving me no information. So having an accessible PDF is going to be really important for making sure
Acrobat has new window.
I'm going to turn VoiceOver off.
VoiceOver off.
Making sure that we are being mindful of people who might have needs that are different from our own. So going back to, let me just kind of minimize this back here. So the first thing I want us to think about is, does this need to be a PDF? So we know that there are times where a PDF is preferable, especially if we're sending out communication to stakeholders where they may not have access to Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, or they may not have a Google account, just a lot of, or it might be a form that needs to be accessible. So we know that there are times where that's really essential. However, if it's something that needs to be updated frequently or can be accessed through a link, it's probably preferable to just use a web link rather than a PDF. If I do have to make it into a PDF, the first thing I want to think about is I want to start at the source. Is this a document that I have control over? So for instance, did I develop it in Google Docs? How can I remedy some of those problems in Google Docs before I export it as a PDF? Did I make it as a Google slide deck? How can I make it more accessible in Google Slides before I export it? Was it a Canva creation? There are lots of accessibility things that we can do in Canva to make it more accessible before we ever push it out as a PDF. If it's something that's scanned, that's going to take a lot of different kind of work in Adobe to make it more accessible. But really think about that. If we can start at the source, then that's where we want to start to make a document accessible. So some things that we want to think about. The big checklist. Is it tagged? Is there a reading order that's logical? And do images have alternative text? So I'm going to go back into Acrobat and show you in this interface some of the things that we really want to be aware of whenever we open or are starting to work with a document. I'm going to click over here. I need to kind of there's a menu item called All Tools, and when I click on All Tools, I get a whole list of tools that I can work with in Adobe. What you'll see on my list of tools is Prepare for Accessibility is way up at the top, Use Guided Actions is way up at the top. That's not the default for Adobe. Those typically are listed way down here at the bottom. I have the ability to move these wherever I want. So I would encourage you to first get to all tools when you open up Acrobat and move your accessibility features to the top of your list. So those are, you don't have to search for those every single time. The second, before we get into the document, the second thing I want to do is go over here to this right rail. You can see me over here. And I have some tools that I want to have listed there. I want to have this little tag. It looks like a gift tag. And this Z, this is my reading order. Those are not there by default. So how do I get them so that they're always there for me to use easily? I'm going to click on this toolbar, and on my Mac, I'm going to use Control and click to get to this menu. So it pops this menu up, and then I can select what I want to be on this toolbar. I'm going to click these off here for a second so you can see. So I want reading order and accessibility tags as tools that are quick on this toolbar. So again, I'm hitting Control and my mouse, my keypad on my Mac. I'm going to select accessibility tags. So that's going to pop up there. Notice how my window changed, and reading order, or order, that little Z icon. And when I do that, I can see exactly what the path is for this particular document. So this is the document I was trying to read, and it shows that there's this figure in here, but there's no alternative text. These form fields are all in here, but there's nothing that's going to be read by the screen reader because we haven't really assigned anything to it. So that's what reading order is going to show. And that's one of the things that we need to have it make logical sense whenever we order it. So the path right now is logical. It just skips everything in the middle because it's reading this really as a picture. So I'm going to have to do some work on this. The second thing I want to look at are the tags. Right now, it's got this kind of tagged as a figure, which means it's sort of reading it as a picture, but there's no alternative text to it. So that's really not going to be very useful to my end user. So how does this prepare for accessibility work? That's really what we want to use on a document like this. If I go into prepare for accessibility, I've got another menu of things that I can do. And the first thing I'm going to do is have it run a check. So even before I get to any of these menu items over here, I'm going to check it and see what it says. And I have never done anything with the, other than use the default settings under the accessibility checker options. So I'm going to have it check quick. It says I've got 4 issues in this document that are a problem. So we're going to talk through all of these. Adobe will not check for color contrast, so we would want to do that in our original source. For the most part, I would say this is fine. So I'm going to look at this color contrast. When I control click, I can just say that passes because I have to do a manual check on that. Adobe will not check for color contrast. So it passes, and now that goes off my list. It also says that red X is a problem. It says the primary language failed. When we are working in the original document, we can assign a primary language. If one doesn't come with it, this is easy to fix as well. I'm going to hit Control click. I'm going to say fix it. Then it tells me, oh, set the reading language. I'm going to set it as English. And now that's fixed. This says it doesn't have a title, so we want to fix that too. Let's do that. Let's fix it. We're going, title is blank. We want to have it have a title. So this is student achievement, SMART goal. Okay. And now I'm just going to hit OK. And oh, that's passed. let's look at these other ones, because we're going to come back to logical reading order, because even though it reads logically, it's not fixed because this whole body section is reading as a picture. So it says our tag annotations failed. When I click on that, it should identify where that's at. Our tab order failed. We've got it identifying this link at the bottom. Then when I go to forms, my form fields, all the form fields have failed, every single one of them, because we haven't identified or fixed them appropriately, made them accessible. And the field descriptions have all failed too. So we have one alternate, and it says this needs this figure in the middle needs alternative text. Well, we know we don't want alternative text for that. We want it to just be readable. So I would want to go back in and fix all of these things. One of the things I can do in Adobe is, since this is kind of like a form, I'm going to go ahead and have it identify the form fields. So that's one of the accessibility tools, and that's what it's telling me over here, is these form fields are not tagged. So I want to identify form fields, and it automatically identifies all of them. What we know is some of this stuff doesn't, some of what has been identified isn't A, very clear, and B, doesn't match what's actually there. So like, for instance, where this says school, the name of this says Student Achievement SMART Goals. So I'm going to need to go in and fix that form field. This says team leader, but it's actually on team name. This one isn't defined. So I would go in and I'd want to fix all of those. And once I do that, and my form fields are defined, then it will be tagged. Let's just look at the tags now that they've found the form fields. Let's see what that looks like. It looks a little bit different. Looks like we've got those things. Still has it as a figure. So before any of this is going to get fixed, I'm going to have to go in and fix all those form fields on this document. And I really can't do that in an original document. Like, I can't do that in Word. I can't do that in Google Docs because we don't create forms there. Adobe's really specific for creating forms. I'm going to jump over to this same document that I fixed. And so I went through, I fixed the form fields. Let's look at the tagging structure now. All of those form fields have been identified and named. This table has been given a header row so that these rows will be identified as falling subsequent to those headers. I've changed the reading order, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the reading order. It now has each of these items being read separately and in the order I want it to read. So if I'm going to go ahead and close that, and hopefully my screen reader is going to cooperate, and I will have it read this now fixed document.
Care/desktop/PDF accessibility training doc/smart goal setting access PDF 1 pages pane in/user/care/desktop/PDF accessibility training doc/.
Now that I'm in here, I can
Heading
tab
level
through
2 student school
and I'm using my keyboard commands.
Acrobat team name edit text team leader
And it's giving me
team
all
members
of the context I need
district
in order
goals
to fill this out
school goals
appropriately if I
school goals 1
need that
edit
kind
text
of support.
school goals 2 team smart goal column header team smart goal text entry strategies and action steps column header action steps text entry action steps text entry responsibility column header.
I'm going to go ahead and shut that off, but you get, now that I am in and have an accessible PDF, the screen reader reads it in the order that I want it to be read and in the order that someone who needs that type of support should have it read to them. Turn that
Voiceover off.
So in conclusion, the things that we want to think about are these big items. So first we want to get those tools open in or accessible to us in Acrobat. When we want to fix as much as we can in the original document So really, we're only looking at, is everything tagged correctly? Is there a heading structure? If there are form fields, are those form fields named appropriately? Is the reading order logical? If there are images, do the images have alternative text? Those are the big three. Then we can save it and share it as a PDF. So as we are thinking about it, a scanned paper is going to take a lot more work. So that form that we were using in Adobe, that took a lot more work than if I just am exporting something out of Canva or exporting something out of Docs, especially when I can fix most of it in those original platforms. So a lot of initial setup for scanned documents, and we'll talk about that in a different video. This one's really to kind of get a sense of how do I access those Adobe tools and what are the things I should really be looking for when I am making a document accessible in Adobe Acrobat. I hope that's helpful. I know there'll be lots of questions, but stay tuned for more training videos.